Hey friends, Alicia here with another Design Space tutorial. I cannot wait to show you all this tutorial. This is something that's requested all the time, and it's how to convert PNG images to SVG images. So PNGs are our portable network graphics. These are images that are typically one layer. They have multiple colors. They can be a little bit more detailed than an SVG, but sometimes we want to cut those PNG images with vinyl and make them multi-layered decals or whatever you want to make. But we have to know how to turn those flat images into multi-layered images so we can actually cut them out of the vinyl or whatever you plan to do with them. So today I'm going to show you not one, but two different ways that you can achieve this. Go ahead, click the subscribe button so you don't miss any of our crafty Cricut design tips, and we can go ahead and get started. Okay, so we are on the Makers Gonna Learn website. As you can see, we've got different categories that you all can go into. Now we have our cut files category, obviously we've got our fonts, but this print and cut file area is where we're gonna be at today. So typically with our print and cut images, they are the PNGs, the portable network graphics. Now these come in as a one-layered image, but they're typically very detailed and they're made specifically for printing and cutting. But we are wanting to cut a PNG out of vinyl today. So what I want to do is show you all exactly how to achieve this. Now, I'm looking for an image that doesn't have a ton of detail, but that we are going to be able to break apart into different layers. So we're just going to find an image we like. I love this Enjoy Your Day. We're going to go ahead and download that, and it's going to pop into a zip folder. Now, something good about the Makers Gonna Learn website is that most of the time, whenever we upload new cut files, you're gonna get the PNG as well as the SVG version of an image, but that's not always the case. So what we're gonna do now is take this image. It's only a PNG, so we do not have the SVG version of this, but I'm gonna show you in just a few easy steps how easy it can be to take one of these PNGs and convert it. So the first way that I wanna show you, after you've downloaded your image, let's go back to the internet. We are going to go to this website. It's literally called png to svg.com. Now this website is going to convert it for us, which is super, super helpful. So you can see we can just drag and drop a file. What I'm going to do is pop open my Finder. I've got my image selected right here. If you can't find your image, go to your recents or your downloads and it should be there. And I'm just going to drag and drop this into the website. There are many different websites to do this. This one just works the best for us. And once you upload the image, you can see down here, we have our image uploaded. So it's picked up on 5 different colors, which is perfect. The next thing that we need to do is generate our image. Now, one thing that's going to be very important for you all, especially when you're using the website version, is that you are using PNGs with a transparent background. If you have pulled an image out of Google, you're going to want to make sure that you are pulling images that have a clear background, a transparent background, if you will. The reason I know that this has a transparent background is because I have this gray on gray checkerboard back here. And also, Makers Gonna Learn PNG images always are uploaded to the website without a background. So you're not gonna run into that issue whenever you're pulling PNGs off of our website. If you try to pull one off of Google, you're gonna need to make sure that you are pulling them off with a transparent background. Let me show you all how to know if you are doing that or not. Okay, so I just Googled rainbow just for an example. You can go to Tools, Color, and then select Transparent. This is going to filter out any images that do not have a transparent background. So you're gonna see all of these, whenever you download them, will have a transparent background. But typically we're gonna be using Makers Gonna Learn images, so you're not gonna have to worry about that. Now, we've got our image uploaded, so the next thing we're going to want to do is generate our image, and then we are going to download the SVG, and you can see it pops in. Once that downloads, I'm going to hit Control click, and I'm going to select Show in Folder. So it's going to show in Finder. So it's going to take me right to my image inside of my downloads. Keep it selected. Come down here to Cricut, and then make sure you are on the uploads area. So go to the left, hit upload image, and then I'm going to go to our Finder and just click and drag that SVG in. Okay. Now we'll need to select upload, and then you can select your image, add to canvas, and there you have it. Now, you can see over here we have multiple layers and everything is separated into its own specific color. Y'all, that is so easy. So what this is going to look like whenever you go to cut this out of vinyl, go to make it, and then you can see each of these colors are going to be on their own mat. How handy is that, y'all? So you can cut these out of these different color vinyls, and then you can layer them on your own. Now, sometimes whenever we use this technique, we will run into a lot of jagged edges. And what I mean by that is, and it may not even be noticeable that much for you all, but sometimes there will be like jagged edges along the edges of the image. And that's just the nature of using that converter. But most of the time it does pretty good. Now, there is another way to achieve this look, and it takes a little bit longer, but I feel like sometimes it can look a little bit more clean. So let me show you all exactly how to do that. Let's go to upload. I'm going to upload an image. This time we're going to actually pull the PNG into Design Space. So we're not pulling that SVG we converted. We're going to pull the original image. So we're going to pull the Enjoy Your Day PNG into Design Space. I'm going to hit Complex and Continue. Now, the less colors you have for this, the quicker you're going to be able to do it. Now, this image has a ton of colors, okay? But what we're doing virtually is erasing any of the colors that we don't want. But this one has 5 colors, if you remember. So we're going to have to repeat this process 5 times. And what I mean by that is, let's just select a color to start with. Let's say we want to cut the blue. What that means for us is we're going to have to get rid of anything that is not blue for the first upload. So I'm going to zoom in pretty close, and then we can use the select tool to do most of these. You can just go in here, select anything that is not blue. Okay. And zoom out to make sure you got everything. If you want to preview cut image, you can totally do that. And I can already see here, we still have some of those outlines from our rainbow. This is when I like to go in with my erase tool, kind of size it up, and you can make it even bigger. And we can remove this rainbow right here because we don't want any of that. And I'm going to zoom in even to the letters. And make sure that those are cleaned up as well. And they look pretty good to me. Make sure, I'm just scrolling around to make sure that there's no other little elements that we may not want. And then we can go off of this, zoom back out, make sure everything looks good. I'm going to hit apply and continue. In this instance, we're going to want to use the cut image, okay? And then what you're going to do is repeat the process for each one. Now, if you're like, I don't really need all those colors, I really just wanted the rainbow to be different colors, I don't need to do that with the words, you can select the portions that you want to keep together. So what I mean by that is basically removing anything that you don't want. And so you would repeat that same process for every letter. Now this one, like I said, it's going to take a little bit longer, but we've already done the blue. So we're just going to delete this. I'm going to repeat the process, kind of speed things up so you all can just get the gist for what we're doing. And then I'll show you how to lay it out in Design Space. If you accidentally erase something that you don't want to erase, just come up here and click the undo button. Okay, so you can see we had 5 colors in our image, and now I have 5 images here. So I'm just going to select these all, and you can see they pop down here, and we're going to add them to our canvas. This is going to allow you also to customize the colors for however you want them. You just have to kind of piece them together, and if it helps you, you can color them as you place them. So I'm just going to select random colors just so you all can get a good idea of what is going on here. You can see it actually pulls in the colors that originally it used, but you can kind of swap them around if you want. And I would try to make sure not resize anything until you've got it all situated where it's actually supposed to go. And like I said before, select everything together before you resize. And then I'm just going to show you all what these look like side by side. And obviously we're going to be placing all of this manually after we cut it out. So if you were cutting this out of HTV, you would actually have to apply this in layers with your HTV. So you're really only going to be using this technique for very specific projects, but it comes in handy whenever you've got a PNG image that you really want to break into different layers. Now, typically, if you found a PNG, you could just use like a printable heat transfer vinyl or something like that to get the entire image. But this is just a good way for you all and a good technique for you all to use in your future designs if you did want to break it apart and use different colors of HTV. So this is the first technique that I taught you all, and this is the second one. Let me know which one you all are going to try out today in the comments. I would love to know. And let me know your thoughts on turning PNGs into SVGs. If you would rather just keep it a PNG and print it on printable HTV, or if you enjoy this part of the design space, or if you enjoy being able to manipulate your files and make things completely custom. I hope you all found today's tutorial super helpful, and I hope that you're going to be able to feel like you can elevate your crafts now and really not be limited by a flattened PNG image when you really want to cut it out and use your own special colors. If you all try this technique out and you're a member, make sure to post it in our member only Facebook group. We always love to see your all's creations. And if you're not a member and you really liked what you saw today, make sure to check out the Maker's Gonna Learn website. In the description below, we've got a link for you all. We would love for you to be a part of our crafty community. We will see you all in the next video. Make sure to subscribe and hit the little bell so you're notified the next time that we post, and we will see you all there. Bye. If you're here, you've probably been struggling in design space, and I want to help you all today learn how to take all of those design space functions and use them to their best capabilities. That way you can create beautiful Cricut projects every single time. My name's Alicia. I am a craft producer here with Maker's Gonna Learn, and I'm gonna show you all today all of the favorite tools that we use in design space on a daily basis and how you may be using them, but a better way to maybe turn things around, give you a fresh perspective in design space, and make those projects perfect so that you feel confident every time that you open your Cricut. Okay, so we all know that Cricut Design Space can be very overwhelming. There are lots of different features. You can see lots of buttons up here on the top, lots of buttons along this left side panel. And then as always, we have these functions in our layers panel. So I do not want you all to feel intimidated by this. Listen, I have been there. I totally get it. So I just want to show you all what I used to do versus what I do now that has really, really changed the game for me when it comes to designing in Cricut Design Space. So the first feature I want to talk about is grouping versus attaching. So a lot of times whenever we go to cut our images, we're not really sure if we need to group them together so that they cut together or attach them together. Now the biggest difference here is that grouping does not affect where your images are placed when you go to make it. So let me show you what I mean. So I've got 2 images here, and right now they can freely move around on their own. But if I select them both and go up here to our group button, when you hover over it, you can see that that's the group button. I'm going to select that. Now, whenever I'm working in my canvas, they're together. So then when we go to make it, they're in the same group here, and I can move them around. It looks like they're attached. Well, if I want to cut them exactly where they're at on my canvas, if I go to make it and they're just grouped, they are not going to do that. They are going to go onto their own mats, and Cricut is going to place them on the mat wherever they see that you're not going to be using as much vinyl. So it's going to automatically pop them up in this top left corner, as you can see here. And even if I made them the same color, say they were both the same shade of red, and I thought, oh, well, that should, make them cut where they need to go. Let me show you what happens when we go to make it over here. It automatically pops those up to the top left and flushes them as close as they can so that we're not using as much vinyl. Now, this is what you need to be doing if you want to cut these out exactly where they are. So I'm going to go ahead and ungroup these. So as if we haven't done anything here. Now I want my heart to cut up here on the top left, and I want my star down here in the bottom right. Well, the group function is not going to work for us. What will work for us is the attach function. So I'm going to go to the bottom of my layers panel, and our attach button is right here. I'm going to select attach, and you'll need to make sure if you're attaching things, they're going to cut out of the same color, but they're also going to cut out exactly where you want them on the mat. So when I go to make it, you can see they're in the same exact place, which is what we wanted. So I really, really love this feature. It's great for when you're doing one color cuts, if they've got multiple design elements that you want to cut out at the same time. So if you were doing something like a t-shirt and it had like a words design on it and you just wanted them all the same color, but you wanted to add like a heart or a star around the words, it's still going to be all red on a white shirt. You could attach everything exactly where it is on your canvas, and then when you go to make it on your mat, it's all going to be laid out exactly where you need it, so you're not having to worry about placing those items exactly where you need them, if that makes sense. So those are two that I got confused a lot in the beginning, and I'm like, wait, am I supposed to group it or attach it? And hopefully this clears things up for you all. All right, the next one is a big one. So last year, Cricut Design Space came out with these combined functions, one of those being the Unite function. So typically, we were used to using the weld function. So the weld was when we wanted to basically weld two shapes together. We wanted to fuse them into one shape. So you can see I've overlapped my star with my heart. I'm going to select both layers, and I'm going to weld this and show you all what happens. So I'm going to select weld, and you can see here it's just one image. Even in our layers panel, there's no sub layers under that weld result. So this is just one image by itself. This is permanent. The only time I can undo a weld is if I immediately do it after I have selected weld. So like we just did it, and I can go up here and select undo, and I can undo it. But let me show you all what happens if we do not do that. I'm going to weld this together again. I'm going to weld it, and then I'm just going to go, I'm going to save this project as stars and hearts. And then we're just going to go to my stuff. I can kind of browse around, yada, yada. And then I'm like, oh, I need to go back and work on that stars and hearts project. Let me open it up really quick. I'm going to hit customize. Just open your project back up. And I'm like, oh, I wish those hearts and stars were separated. You can't undo it. You cannot undo it. So this is permanent. I cannot undo this. My image will permanently look like this forever. And that's where the Unite function comes in. So let me show you the difference here. I'm going to go ahead and just pull in a new heart and a new star for us to play around with. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead, layer them over one another, and then I'm going to select them both. We're going to come down here to the combine function, and I'm going to select Unite. Now, it looks like the same exact image on my canvas, but look over here in my layers panel. You can see a star and a heart. And what it's allowing me to do is select that heart, And then it's giving me the ability to move this around anywhere on my canvas that I want until I click off of it. And there is when it will fuse it again together, just in a different portion depending on where you place these shapes. So I really, really love that aspect of it. You can also rotate it, resize it if you want to, and then when you click off, it welds them back together again. And also the best part of this Unite feature is that it is completely reversible. And so if I save my project now, just how we did before, I'm gonna save it and go off of it and come back in and show you what happens. So we're gonna go back to my stuff, kind of click off of it, and then we can go back to my projects. We're gonna open up that stars and hearts again. This would have the same effect if you exited off of Design Space and tried to come back in. We're gonna open this up, customize it. And you can see here, they're still united, but if I wanted to undo them, I can go to combine down here and hit undo unite. And look, you all, they're separate. So they're just back to their own individual images. They're their own layer over here in the layers panel. So the unite feature has really replaced the weld feature for me. I don't use the weld function nearly as much now just because I know if I use the unite, I'm not in a fully committed relationship with that function. And so I really like having the ability to undo anything that I did not want to be permanent. So while we're on the topic of the unite function, which is one of the new combine features, I want to show you all some of the other things that I love about these new combine features and some of the things that I don't typically use as much. So when I select both of these shapes, you can see down here our combine menu will light up as well as our slice. Now, if I overlap these and select both of the layers and I hit the slice button, let me show you what happens. So you can see that this little star, it was on top of our heart. This is acting like a cookie cutter, and this heart is like a little piece of dough. So the star is right on top of the heart. We're hitting slice, which is gonna push that cookie cutter into the dough, and it's gonna cut out everything that it overlaps. Now you can only do this with 2 layers. The slice function will not work if you're using multiple images over 2. So we can only do the heart and the star. If I tried to slice out of more than 2 images, it just will not work. It won't allow us to do it. But with the slice function, you can see you're gonna have multiple pieces. So like I've got this piece, I've got this piece right here, and then I've got this piece, and then you're left with the sliced out image. So you kind of get multiple layers when you're using the slice result. This doesn't bother me as much because I can just go in and delete out any of the layers I don't want over here in my layers panel, and it's just super quick if you're doing it a lot. But if that's something that you don't like, you can use what's called the exclude function. Now let me show you all what happens here. I'm gonna select both of my images, go to combine. Now, if deleting all those layers gets on your nerves, you can always use one of these new features that they've put in here under the combine menu, like subtract. So I can hit subtract, and you can see here, it cuts the star out, but I don't have to deal with any of those extra layers because I knew I just wanted this heart with the star cut out of it, and I don't have to worry about going through and going to my layers panel and deleting it. For me, it's not personally a huge deal. But there are instances when the subtract function is going to work a lot better than just the slice function. Now, if I were wanting to do multiple cuts out of one image, so say we had a big heart and we wanted to add a bunch of stars within it, I can place as many of these stars as I want inside of this heart, okay? So I'm just gonna put a whole bunch just so I can show you all truly what happens whenever we use this exclude function. So we've got all of our stars. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stars and the heart. So 8 images, 8 layers we want to cut through. I'm gonna select this all. I'm gonna go to my combine and we're gonna hit exclude. So you can see here we have 8 images. Now I want to cut all of these stars at one time out of my heart. So what I'm going to do is click and drag, select everything. We're going to go to the combine feature, hit exclude, and look what happens. It cuts them out so good. Not only that, but I still have the ability to move these around, resize them, rotate them if I wanted to. When I click off, it's still going to cut it out of my image. So this function is really, really helpful. The only thing that would be a downside to a design similar to this is if for some reason one of these hearts goes off the edge of your heart, whenever you click off of this little edge piece right here is still going to hang off of the edge. So anything that you want fitted inside the heart, it's going to have to go entirely inside. Otherwise, you're probably just going to stick with using the slice function. These combine functions are reversible as well. So whenever I select this, you can see in the layers panel, it says exclude, but I can go to combine, undo, exclude, and then all of these are back on their own layer. All right, so the next function I want to talk about is our offset function. This is something I use all of the time. I use it to add outlines to my images. I use it for print and cut so I can add a cut around my stickers. And what this function does is it adds a layer around the image, the same shape as the image. So it's just like a slight offset of whatever is already existing there. So you can see I hit my offset button. It's at a 0.25 offset, and obviously you can move this around to make it thicker or thinner. And then you can use the corners to make them sharp if you wanted to, and then hit apply. And so a lot of times I would be using my offset for adding an outline around my images. Well, let me show you what I've been using a lot of lately to get an even more precise outline of my image if I'm just needing the outline. So I'm not needing all of this right here. What I've been liking to do is go into my offset function and then doing an inset, just very, very small inset. And you can see it's a negative number up here. So a negative 0.153. And I'm going to hit apply. And then you can see there's the inset is filling in this star right here. Now, if I just wanted the outline of my shape, I can select both of those and I can go to my subtract function. And it's just going to leave us with the outline of the star. So that's pretty helpful in that way. You can do the same thing with the offset, but it doesn't give you as precise of a shape, if that makes sense, because you're going on the outside of the shape. So it's going to be a little bit larger proportionally. And if this way, it's just giving me the true outline of the star, if that makes sense. So offset, great feature. Inset, also a great feature, just great in different ways. The offset is just going to have a proportionally larger outlined version of the original image. Okay, one of the biggest issues that is talked about in the craft world is kerning our letters. So kerning your letters is basically adjusting them either outwardly or inwardly so that they touch each other and look like one solid word. So you can see here using this font, all of the letters are spaced out. Now this is a script font, so the letters should typically be touching each other. Now there are a couple different ways you can do this, and typically I see people doing the letter spacing manual adjustment up here. So whenever you select your text box, you can move these in or out depending, but like once I get my E touching where I want it to, you can see my O is already trying to stick out, even my L. So if I keep going in, it's just not going to look right. Now, you can get the bulk of your spacing done this way, but what I typically like to do is make sure to adjust them fairly closely, and then I go to advanced and select ungroup to letters. So I use the manual spacing to move them in bulk together, but then I can go to ungroup to letters and get a really, really fine-tuned movement on these letters so that they can get really close without overlapping. So you can see now I can select these individual letters and I'm just bumping them over using the arrow pad on my keypad. And so I'm not having to move them a ton, and they're still going to stay in line, and it's not going to take me 1,000 years to get my letters kerned exactly how I want them. Now, I will say if you do ungroup to letters, that they are still going to stay detached from each other unless you select them all and then attach them that way. But you need to remember, if you're attaching all of this stuff together, it's going to try to cut your letters individually. You can see there's little black lines, and I can change the color of this so y'all can really get a good view. But anywhere there's a black line, the letter's going to cut. So once you've got them kerned exactly how you want them, really you're going to want to do combine and unite. So make sure you're not attaching those letters, but rather uniting them so they're one solid image. And you can see the black lines completely disappear. And this is going to cut out of our vinyl as one solid unit. I'd also like to say, before you unite those, that you are making sure to edit any spelling. Make sure that the word is exactly what you want it to be, mainly because you cannot go back and edit it after it's united. The unite basically turns it into an image. So even though it's a word, it's technically an image now. And so it's ready to be cut, and it's not going to allow you to edit it. So make sure you've got your word exactly spelled how it should be, and that you don't plan on changing it before you go to cut it. A cool feature that Design Space has is the writing text feature. So I want to show you all how stinking cool this is. I'm going to change this to a sketch font. Now, if you've never heard of a sketch font, we offer these with our membership. We have lots of different options here, as you can see. I don't even think this is all of them. I haven't downloaded them all, but I want to show you how this works. So I'm going to go ahead and select this Artsy Amy sketch font. Let's blow this up really big, and you all can see they're very thin. So it doesn't look like something I could cut, because if I tried to cut this out of adhesive vinyl or heat transfer vinyl, it's not going to cut well because it's going to be so thin. And so in return, what we're going to need to do is change this into a pen function. So you can see here, we've got draw, and then beneath it, we have all these options. Well, I want to select the pen function. And what this is going to do is actually draw this image on a piece of cardstock, for example, or whatever you decide you're wanting to write on. And so whenever you run this through your Cricut, you actually put a pen or a Cricut marker into your Cricut machine, and it will write out your letters. Now, you could technically do this with a standard font, but what happens whenever we do that, and let me show you guys with a different font, it's going to do the outline of this font, but you can see that marker is going to go all the way around it, and it's going to get really, really thick, and it's not going to look good. It's going to start smudging, and the letters are going to start blending together, especially if you're writing something super small, which typically you are. A lot of people use this sketch fonts for filling in cards and things like that, so small handwritten items. And if you're using a regular font to do this, it's just simply not going to work. There are workarounds. We have a video actually going over how to fill in bold text like this, but it is not the same as using a sketch font. So sketch fonts are really, really the go-to if you're wanting to use your Cricut to write handwritten items for your projects. If y'all are interested in your text, I will link a video below for you all to watch, and Lauren walks you all through how to fill in bold text like this. I'll link that below if you're interested. Now, say that you wanted to attach a word to a shape. So I want to type lovely on a heart. I'm going to go ahead and pull this heart in. We'll change the color. Okay. I'm going to send it to the back. And then I'm going to resize my word. So I really want to write lovely on my heart. Okay, let's say that you want to add a word to your heart. So I already have my heart shape pulled in. I'm wanting to cut this out of cardstock, but I would love to write a note to someone on the heart. So you can go pull up a text box. Let's just start with the word lovely, and then I'm going to pick a sketch font like we just previously talked about, and we're going to use a script. You can resize it here, okay? But we need to make sure whenever we're pulling a new text box in that we are using this operations menu to our best ability. So right now it's going to try to cut lovely out of the heart, but I want to change that so that it draws the lovely on top of the heart rather than cutting it. But I don't need to change the function of the heart. That still needs to be a basic cut. And so after I do that, I want to attach everything together. And so whenever I go to cut this on my Cricut, that's going to allow us to actually cut this heart out and write the lovely on the heart rather than cutting it out. The last thing I want to talk about is removing the background from PNGs. So I'm just going to upload a photo. This is great when we're doing print and then cut images, and I'm just going to take a little picture of Lauren's Asher, and we can remove the background automatically if you've got Cricut access, or if you don't, you're still going to have this option to use a manual selection tool. So you can see there's still parts of this image that need to be erased. So we're going to zoom all the way in, and you can manually go in here and select parts of the image that you do not want. So if it's a similar color, it's going to take out the bulk of it just by selecting remove. So don't forget that you've got that option, especially if you're not an Access member. You still have the opportunity to actually erase the background, but that manual one is going to be super helpful in getting the bulk of the background removed. And then you can go in just with a standard erase tool, and you can go in and get fine-tune all of these little tiny pieces that you may not want in there. Another thing that's nice to do if you want to check your image is go to preview cut image. And so whenever we do this, you can see down here in this bottom left corner that we've still got a ton of area that needs to be removed. And so this allows us to really see what we're doing and making sure that we're getting a clean cut and erasing anything we don't need. And then you can go undo the hide cut image and you can see what is left. I hope you all were able to take even a little bit of knowledge from today's video. I feel like when I first started Cricut, I was so overwhelmed with all of these functions, but now that I'm using my Cricut daily, it's allowed me to really navigate Design Space much better. And I feel like I'm using my tools to their best capability. And so I don't feel limited by Design Space, but rather encouraged by it. So if you all love this video, make sure to hit the subscribe button and the little bell on the bottom so you're notified every time that we post new crafty videos. If you like this video and you're like, man, I would love to learn more about my Cricut, make sure to click the link below about joining our membership. We would love to have you all as a part of our community. We are constantly educating, motivating, and inspiring you all to create the best crafts you possibly can. We offer tons of courses, files, and fonts within our membership, and we would love for you all to be a part of our community. And if you like this video, make sure to watch this one over here. I think you'll like it just as much. Bye!
Y'all, you all were obsessed with me bringing you the tips and tricks on things that I bet you didn't know you could do with your Cricut. So guess what? We are back with more, except in today's video, I'm going to be showing you things that I bet you didn't know you could do in Design Space. My name is Lauren, and I'm a craft producer here at Maker's Gonna Learn. And if you are new to our channel, what we are is we are a crafting community, a membership where we bring you inspiration, education, and motivation. Plus, if you are a member, you get thousands of cut files, hundreds of fonts with new cut files and fonts released to you every single month. If by chance you might be interested in signing up, y'all, click that first link down below. We have a special deal where you can sign up for our membership for only $1. Y'all, it blows my mind that we even have such a great deal for our membership, because with this $1, you get unlimited access to everything on our website for 7 days. Plus, you get 20 downloads, which equals out to 5 cents a download. Y'all, I don't know anywhere else where you can find downloads that cheap, but I definitely think you need to check us out, Try us out for $1. You can search the website. Like I said, you have unlimited access to all the curriculum, all the education that we offer to our members as well. And you can do that only for $1. With that being said, let's go ahead and hop over into Design Space so that I can show you things that I bet you didn't know you could do. Now that we're here in Design Space, let's start off super simple. You see we have nothing on our canvas. We are working with a blank white canvas, but y'all, did you know that you can change the color of your canvas? Now I know you're thinking, Lauren, no, how do I do that? If you look down here at the bottom right hand corner, it says blank canvas. When you click this box, everything up here at your top taskbar changes. It kind of all goes away. Except for the color right here. What you can do, click on that color, and then you can choose any color canvas you want to work with. Now this is great if you are working with stickers, if you're making stickers that you want to have a white offset, or you're working with other materials that do have a white offset. It's really, really great to change the color of your canvas so that you know if something has things that you need to be removed or added, things like that. Let me show you an example of what I'm talking about. So if we go over here to our uploads and we just upload a print and cut image, we'll start with this one right here. We're gonna add that to Canvas. Because my background is gray, I can see that if I were to print this out and cut it without adding an offset, Cricut is going to cut every single thing that you see gray. It's gonna cut around all of your squares, it's gonna cut around all of your letters and things like that. So, like I said, especially helpful if you're working with print and cut so that you can see what is going to cut, what is not, because if this canvas was white, you might think, oh, it's gonna cut out this whole square. But by changing the color of our canvas, we know now that we do have to add an offset to this so that it can cut all the way around it. Now, while we're talking about our canvas before we get into designing features, did you know that you can turn off or turn on your grids and have different grids? If you didn't, let me show you how. First, you're gonna go up to the 3 lines in the top left corner. You're gonna come down here to settings, and then you're gonna go to your canvas. Now, this is where you can turn it on or off. You can have no grid. You can have a partial grid, which is going to give you inch by inch lines, or you can have a full grid, which is going to give you all of the different measurements within your inches. So it's going to give you your quarters, your half, your eighths, all of that. So let me show you exactly what I mean. Here you can see when you zoom in with a full grid, you have a line at every interval. So you have a line for your half, you have a line for your quarter and your eighth, and so on. If we go back to our settings and we turn it on to partial grid, you then see we just have a line for each inch. So this is just going to be a personal preference, and let me change this back to white so that we can see it just a little bit better. This is going to be a personal preference if you want to work with a grid, if you want to not. This is, like I said, this is just something you can do within your settings, is turn on and turn off that grid. It's really helpful depending on different projects that you might be working on. It may be helpful for you to see the grid, for you to use those measurements or not. So just so you know, you can turn on and off the grid. Now, while we're in settings, let's talk about one other thing in settings. If you look here on the general page of the settings, you obviously can change your language that you are working in. Love that. But one of my favorite things to do is go back and forth between my application experience. So if Cricut is working on new features that they may be releasing in Design Space in the future, you can actually change from live to beta version. You can get kind of like a sneak peek of those features that may be coming out in the future if you change from live to beta. So let's change to beta and see if there is anything else that we can do. Now you do have to restart Cricut to do this, so you will have to save all your work if you're working on something. So we're gonna switch to beta. We're gonna click done. It's going to start it up for us. And then we're just gonna see if there's anything that Cricut has in the beta version right now that we might be interested in using. Now, while this is loading, one thing I do want to say is sometimes working in beta can be a little glitchy, so just be aware of that. There are going to be some new features that you may not have in the live version, and it's going to possibly be glitchy because it is not the live and it is going through beta testing. So just be aware of that. You can switch back and forth, but just know that it may be a little glitchy. So we're just gonna go ahead and sign in. So automatically with opening beta, I can already tell you it looks so different. I don't know if Cricut is coming out with a new update soon, but in beta version, this is different. We no longer have our 3 little lines on the side. So like I said, just be aware if you switch to beta, things are probably gonna look a lot different. So we can toggle back and forth between home and canvas here on the tabs. One thing I did notice after kind of playing around with it, to get back to our settings, it is now moved over here. So under your name will be a drop down arrow. If you'll drop that down, you can then get to settings that way. So now we can go back to settings. And if we want to, we can go back to the live version, which we are going to do just because I really like working in the live. If there are new things that I want to test out, I will go to beta version. Now, if you do like to work in beta version and you do find an issue, know that to report an issue, you will come to your settings and you will click this button and report an issue. This is how Cricut really fine-tunes their beta version of Design Space. So if you do like to work in beta, you do see an issue when you are designing or cutting or things like that, always make sure you go and report that so that Cricut can fix that. They can get it ready so that once the live version is ready to go, there are no issues and everything is worked out, okay? So we're just gonna go back to live. Once again, it's going to restart Design Space, not a big deal. Here you can see it's restarting. So just know when you toggle back and forth between beta and live, Cricut Design Space will reopen itself. Now that we've talked about the canvas and our settings and things like that, let's really dive into some true design things that I bet you didn't know you could do in Design Space. So first thing is, let's talk about text. I love working with text in Design Space, especially some of the Maker's Gonna Learn fonts. I absolutely love them. However, I'm gonna pick on this font Albuquerque for just a second. Once again, this is a Maker's Gonna Learn font. I love it, but y'all, look how thin this font is. It's almost too thin, especially if you're wanting to cut small words. Like, it's almost too thin for Cricut to even recognize. But did you know that you can thicken your font? And this can be on any font. It doesn't even have to be a Maker's Gonna Learn font, but you can thicken your fonts, and let me show you how. So we're going to enlarge our text right here. Once again, this text is currently almost 9 inches in width and 7 3/4 inches in height, which is tall, and I still feel like it is super thin. So what you're going to want to do, if you want to keep your font style, but you want to thicken it a little bit, what we love to do is come up here to the offset. Now, it's going to pop up a pretty large offset. We don't want it that large, so we're just going to backspace and then play around with how big the offset is. Here you can see the offset is around each and every letter. They are not touching each other, so I like that. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit apply. That's going to put an offset, but y'all, we can pull this basic text down here. And look, we have this same style font, but it is so much thicker and it is going to be so much easier for Design Space to cut. Now, one thing I do want to let you guys know is that if you do it as a text altogether, you can't use certain text functions on this offset, but let me show you a workaround real quick. So if you still want to thicken your fonts, but you want to be able to manipulate each letter individually, what you need to do first, and this is another little hack that you may not know you could do in Design Space, is go up here to Advanced and ungroup these two letters. What that is going to do is it is going to make each individual letter its own layer. Now, what I could do if I wanted to manipulate one of those, here you can see we have that T. I can move it around separately. So if I wanted to space this out and make even the text a little thicker than what I did earlier, you all could see that it was getting really close together, that those letters may have touched. We didn't want that. So what you can do, ungroup to letters, separate the letters out just a little bit, select them all, go back up to offset, and now I can even make it a little bit thicker if I wanted to. So let's try 0.2. That's still a little thick. We've got the X touching in the middle, but let's try 0.15, see what that looks like. Oh, not that. 0.15. There, it's not touching. I like it. We're gonna hit apply. And now the offset is still together, but it is spaced out so that you do have a thicker font. Now, if you wanted to just have individual letters, what you would do is just select each individual letter, come up here to your offset, type in the 0.15, apply, and then you would just add that offset to each letter, and now you have all of these different offsets that you can manipulate and move around themselves. So now that I've shown you how you can thicken your fonts, while we are talking about fonts, one other thing that I absolutely love is this next feature. So let's say you have ungrouped to letters because you wanted to manipulate and move each letter around individually. However, you are ready to line them back up, space them back out, and you're like, oh, now they're all wonky. They are not going to fit. What am I going to do? They're not going to fit in our blank, whatever. What am I going to do? And you know that you have, let's say, from 10 inches to work with. So from 6 here, we've got from 6 inches to 16. So we're going to move this over from 6 to 16 inches. Right? Okay. Still looks like weird, and I know you're thinking, Lauren, what are you doing? Hold up, wait, hear me out. So what you can do, although these letters are literally, we'll even move this one down here, they're everywhere, they're all over the board. What you can do, select them all by either dragging or dropping, or if you have other elements that you don't want to drag and drop, you can select them all over here on the layers panel. What we are then going to do, hear me out, we are going to go to Align. First thing we're going to do is we are going to distribute them horizontally. So now they are evenly spaced apart across the board. And while they're all still selected, we're going to go to Align and align them to the bottom. Y'all, now you can see the T's are within those 10 inches and the other letters are evenly spaced apart from each other. I don't know if y'all knew that you could do that, but you definitely can, and it doesn't have to be just with text. For example, let's grab some circles and we'll make a couple different sizes. Like if you wanted to create a dotted line around let's say a sign, and you wanted to have dots around it, and you wanted to, we'll just duplicate that a couple times. We'll add in the big one over here. We'll put, oh, we don't want to do that. We'll put these in the middle somewhere. Let's go ahead and duplicate one more, and then we'll duplicate it again, and I'll make this one in between the two. Okay, so we know we want two small ones, a big one and this one, and we want it to be between there and there. Okay, once again, stick with me. This doesn't have to be just with text. So we want all of these to be straight across, right? What we're going to do first, select them all, arrange, distribute horizontally, okay? Then we're going to go to align, and we're going to align them center vertically. And y'all, look, we have a straight line with different size circles, different size shapes that lines up and is distributed perfectly. We don't have to do the math anymore. Cricut does it for us. So this is a feature that is definitely one you must take advantage of, because I think once you figure it out and you learn how to work with it, it's going to be one that you use time and time again. Tip number, I don't even know how many at this point. Let's talk about if we have, remember, these are all ungrouped to letters, right? We see over here on the layers panel that they are all different layers, but we want to bring them back together. So what do? We select them all, we come down here, and we can either unite or weld, whichever one you feel like using. Normally I would use unite, but let's just say for this purpose, we're gonna weld those together. Let's say you've welded them, you've gone back out, you come back in, oh my gosh, I can't remember what font that I just used. It's not telling you over here because it says weld result. And in years past, Cricut has not really been the best at telling us what font we use, especially after welding. So even after a weld, did you know that you can still figure out what font you have used? All you have to do is go over here to your weld result, click the right click on your mouse, come down here to image info, and here you can see it shows us that the font that we used was Albuquerque. So even after you have welded your fonts or your letters together, you can go to, it will show you what font you have used. Now, this is just one font. Let's say you might be thinking, but Lauren, what if I use multiple fonts? Okay, well, we're at system fonts. Normally we'll do a script font with a blocky font. So let's just put this in here. Let's say we've just added this here. We're gonna weld these together. Beautiful. Right click, image info. It tells you both of them. Y'all, this is a game changer, especially if you love to use weld and you love to weld your text and images together. You can still right click, go down to the bottom where it says image info, and it will tell you what fonts and the names of the images that you used. Now, we've talked about fonts, we've done that for a bit. Let's talk about uploads. Did you guys know that once you upload an image into Design Space, it keeps it there for you forever? You don't have to upload it every single time you use it. Let me show you an example. So over here in our uploads, you can see we have uploaded so many different things. What do you want to bet? This snowman right here, when I hover over it, it says 16.winter snowman. I bet you money we have uploaded this snowman multiple times, and the reason I say that is because, fun fact, this specific snowman was part of one of the very first cut file releases within Maker's Gonna Learn. So if I was a betting woman, I would say this snowman is in here quite a few times, and honestly, I have no clue, but we're gonna find out together. So how you can do that, go to View All, and then if you search an image, let's just type in, what did we say? We're gonna hover over it, and it was winter snowman. Let's just type in snowman. Okay, first of all, this has been uploaded twice. Winter snowman did not come up, but we said it was, but look how many times the face has been uploaded. Y'all, that's so many times. 6 times? That's insane. So let's try that. I think it was 16.winter snowman. I told ya. Here it is once, twice, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, 7. 7 times this snowman has been uploaded. So just know, if you have uploaded an image into Design Space, you don't have to upload it even if you don't see it. All you need to do is search for it. I know that this didn't pop up when we searched for snowman, but I would just try searching for your image name. And how you can find your image name is by hovering your mouse over your image and it will pop up. So like this one, 16 dot winter snowman. This one is a screenshot. This one is outdoorsy. So you can see here that all of these have been, there are multiple files that have been downloaded so many times. And this is really cool because if you hop in on that dollar deal today and you use those 20 downloads, y'all, you can download those into Cricut Design Space. You've got them forever. I mean, we don't have a cut file police that we send to say, hey, that's a Maker's Gonna Learn cut file, we need that back. No, guys, it's yours once you download it. Now, I want you to be aware that it does revert back to a personal use license if you are not a member. But another perk of Maker's Gonna Learn is if you are a member, you have commercial use licensing with all of our cut files and fonts, meaning you can use those cut files and fonts and create things to sell to make money for yourself. So now that you've listened to my spiel, let's go back to Design Space and learn more things that I bet you didn't know you could do. So while we're here in our uploads, I want to add something to the canvas real quick because I want to show you an amazing sticker hack that I bet you didn't know you could do. So we're going to add this ho 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 to the canvas. You can see here that it is a beautiful print and cut image. I love the effects that it has, but let's just say you were wanting to make a sticker and you wanted to make it a little more, I don't know how to say it, but defined. Let's say you wanted to add a black outline to this sticker because I don't know about you guys, but I have noticed that if I'm making a sticker, especially when it comes to text, so we're gonna use this print and cut as an example, but I'm also gonna pull in a text and I'm gonna make like a thicker font. Let's do Andy. Andy is a cute one. And we're gonna type in, we'll type in Asher. I'm gonna change the color because let's just say our kids want a really cool sticker to put on something he loves. We'll do blue and then we'll add an offset because we want it to be together. So let's add an offset to this. Beautiful. We're gonna change the color because I don't know about you guys, but Asher loves things to be colorful. Purple is one of his favorite colors. So we'll just do blue and purple, okay? So looks really cool. It has like this cool black outline. It defines everything. But what happens when I go to flatten this is that black outline disappears, and it kind of like, especially if you have colors that are very close to each other, it seems like it just gets lost. Let me show you a trick of how you can get around that. So we're gonna unflatten this back. I'm going to just select Asher. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm gonna come up here to my operations. I'm gonna change it to a pen function. Now you can see we have a black pen function. However, if you go to this little square right here, you change it from fine point. You can do extra fine point, gel, marker, different size markers. Let's do the 2.5 marker. It's pretty thick. Now you are gonna be limited to your colors when you do this. It is going to limit you to what Cricut has. Not all of them are going to be super limited, but for this, all intents and purposes, 9 times out of 10, we're going to use black for this. So here we're going to do black. We're going to pull this down. We're going to select all of those layers. We're going to align them center. And now we're going to flatten them all together, and I want you guys to see what happens. It looks exactly the same. It flattened with that pen layer, giving us a black outline around our sticker. Now, if you think, oh, Lauren, that's a little too thick, you can unflatten. That is our blue layer. This is our pen layer. We're gonna change it back to pen, okay? Change it, I said the marker, we thought the 2.5 was too thick. Let's go back to gel black. It's a little thinner. select them all, flatten them together, boom, you have a thinner black outline. Y'all, that is a game changer, especially when it comes to making stickers. And you can do this on more than just text. So let's say we wanted to make this a sticker. We're gonna size this down. I'm gonna add an offset to it. Let's add a 0.4 offset. Beautiful, apply. I'm gonna change the color to like let's go to like a tan color. I think that'd be really cute. Love that. However, it still is like our ho 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 kind of gets lost. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna select that, we're gonna duplicate it. Once again, we're gonna change it to a pen function. Now you see we have all of the outlines, beautiful. I don't want it on fine point. I think I want it on glitter, black. I think that, and you could even make it really cool and like offset. Like, I love the offset of the outline. There are so many different things you can do with this. So let's just select them all, align, center, and flatten. And y'all, look how cute. It gives it a defined edge on your sticker. So just know that that is something that you can do, and that I love this when it comes to print and cut, sticker making, and things like that. Now, while we are here and we have a bunch of things on our layers, let's talk about the layers panel. Did you know that you can, obviously I love to work from the layers panel, but did you know that you can move things to front and back? So let's put all these together. We see that the text is in the back, the ho 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 stickers in the front, Asher's in the middle, but I want to bring that text to the front. There are a couple of ways you can do that. You can either go to arrange and bring to front, or did you know that from the layers panel, you can just move it to the top and it brings it to the front. Y'all, how awesome is that? You don't have to remember, oh, is it align, arrange? I can't remember. You can just pull this bad boy, bring it up there, and bring it to the front. I am obsessed with that. So you can arrange, bring them to the back, put them in the middle, anything from the layers panel, you just move back and forth. But did you also know that you can, if you have something grouped together, you can also add to a group that way as well. So let's just say we group our two stickers together. You can see here they're moving around in the group. The text is separate. Did you know that you can pull your text and add it into the group as well? And now if I select the group, they're all three together. Same thing, I can say I want to take Asher out of the group. You can still move them around individually, by the way, the whole group, but you can also ungroup things by selecting them and pulling them out. Now, the last thing about the layers panel is, did you know that you can rename your layers? So here you can see we have a weld result. If you want to, you can rename this as, we'll just put text because that's what it says. Or you can rename this one to ho ho ho. Or this one we can rename to Asher. So it kind of helps you stay separate, keeping things separate. You can even, so let's go to unflatten. And you see we have the ho 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 here. Here is the outline and here is the offset. So we can rename this one to outline. All this does is it helps you really keep your layers separate so that you know which ones you are working with. So if you don't want to move them on the canvas, you can work with them here. So just know you can move layers from up and down from your layers panel and also rename layers. Wow, y'all. So much information. I really hope that you have learned something in today's video. Maybe you learned a new hack, maybe you learned a new function. Drop your comments down below letting me know something that you may have learned, or even if you have something that you want to teach other people or let other people know, drop those in the comments as well. If there's a hack that I didn't show you all today and something that you can do in Design Space, drop that down below so that we can maybe add that to our next video. As always, If you have enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to our channel, and hit that bell notification so that you can get notified every time we bring you hacks, tips, tricks, and new crafts. Once again, don't forget to jump in on that dollar deal as well. 20 downloads for $1, 7 days, absolutely unlimited access to the Makers Gonna Learn website. First link down below, make sure you click that. And if you want to learn even more hacks, check out this video here.